Well, hello there. So, today we are going to be talking about the Alberta Wartable Open. If you see, I have a new overlay which is going to be showing through all the different things that we can be doing. So here we have the video game overlay, and usually there would be a game in the background by just chatting, which on the right side, which is actually my left, is the chat function, so we'll be able to see all of the messages that I'll be going through. I've kind of beefed up the UI a little bit more, and if you see in the bottom right hand corner, all my socials are being presented. So if you guys are curious on anything that goes on, wait 5 minutes. If you gotta wait 5 minutes, just watch for 5 minutes and you'll be able to see all the different social medias that come across there. So with that said, I'm gonna jump into Discord and we will be introducing Brian, Mr. Malorian, and we will be introducing Andrew, who will also be part of the podcast because he was involved with the Wartable Open. I hope you guys enjoy it, and here we go.
Let's be honest, that's most of
Hey guys.
social interaction, given it's February, right? For how many months is that? That's 3.5 months, 4.5 months, 4.5 months.
We are on stream now.
That's unprecedented. Ah.
You said we're streaming now, Ian?
We are on stream right now.
All right, well, stop saying those bad things about you.
That's fine. I am the villain everybody
didn't stop me
deserves.
last time we were on stream, Brian.
Oh, thanks, Mike, for liking the stream. Appreciate that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
I'm waiting for
perfect.
that pass over.
What's that? Pardon?
I'm waiting for you to say that when we're good to go. I
You're
thought you were
ready
gonna
to
do your
go
start
whenever you
stream
like.
stuff.
You can go. You're good to go.
Awesome. All right, everybody, welcome back to another Shoulda Boosted. This is episode 37. I'm one of the co-hosts, Brian, also known as Malorian, and with me is Ian, also known as Community Killer. Ian, how's it going?
Pretty good. I'm actually having a pretty great day so far. Painted a room. Ready to talk War Machine.
Wow, I mean, like, you're painting a room, but we actually have a special guest here that's also painting a room. This is going to change to, like, the painting room podcast.
This is the paint-a-sode.
Yeah,
I wanted to do
exactly.
paint-a-sode so bad.
So we don't have Mark, but we have someone even better. We have Andrew. Andrew, how's it going?
That's going great, thank you.
So we're having Andrew on here today because we're going to be talking about a event that we had just this last month here. But before we get into all that, Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I'm one of those old school players, I guess you can say. I started way back in 2006. Played the game pretty casually when I was in college for a while. And I ended up dropping out from about 2009, 2015. And in 2015, I moved to a city called Red Deer, Alberta, which is right between Calgary and Edmonton here in Alberta. And it's a really competitive, or it was a really competitive, really strong meta. And so I got introduced to some of the guys there, and they kind of showed me how to play the game more competitively. I'm a bit of a competitive person by nature, so I kind of dove right in. At this point, I've been playing, I guess, competitively for 5 years. I'm a mono-faction player, so I exclusively play the Protectorate of Minoth. And to be frank, I'm exclusively a Harbinger player about 95% of the time. I dabble with anybody that has kind of an attrition profile or can play control. But I don't think I played a pairing without Harbinger for probably 2 or 3 years at this point. What else? I'm mid-30s. I have a young family, so even before COVID-19, my hobby time has kind of been dropping pretty dramatically over the last few years. But luckily for me, only playing one caster and one faction, there's a lot of muscle memory there. So I kind of consider myself a journeyman in Alberta. I've never actually left the province to play in an event. Never played in a con. Never traveled overseas, internationally, to other provinces. But I kind of catch every single event that's in Alberta. And, we have a pretty competitive meta here, and I usually run 3-1. Pretty happy with 3-1, and like to think myself as in contention for winning most events. Kind of the general gist.
That would,
Yeah, basically
I would
in
agree
this
with
meta,
that, yeah.
If you ever see Andrew, you're like, oh my god, did I bring my counter to Menoth? No, there's not enough strong. Okay, I'm in trouble. Dodge Andrew.
Yeah, I like to think that at least you've got a plan for Harbinger if you're going to go to a tournament in Alberta.
Yeah, It's basically wait for that feat and then cry. That's my plan. I don't know about Ian, but
I got a whole lot of different plans. I usually just go play my janky assassination and be like, "Hey Andrew, what can you do against tridents?" "Oh, I don't know what tridents do." Be like, "They kill your caster." "How many shield guards you got?" 9. "Oh no."
Yeah, that's fair. One other thing I wanted to mention though, Brian, is I am a tournament player through and through. So I love everything about tournaments. I love the carpooling, I love the shared meals, the banter. I love playing tournament games, watching tournament games, talking about tournament games. So, I've actually played in probably over 100 tournaments over the last few years. I've never left a tournament early, dropped a tournament game, went home at, X and 1 or X and 2. I just love playing tournament games. So when you had this event start up, I haven't played a game of War Machine in a tournament setting in, almost a year now. I was super excited.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. So what we decided to do this year is because, of course, it's going to be a pandemic fun year where you can't really do much things in person, is we decided to really embrace the idea of using online gaming and Wartable. And we have like a whole year-long series where every single month will be a new event, one game per week. You get to know your pairing, and then over the week you get to arrange your game and you get to play. So for the first month, the one that we're going to be covering in this episode today was going to be a Brawlmachine one. So this was as simple as possible, one list. You don't have to mess with anything. Just let's get out there playing, keeping it simple. So with that, let's start talking about your list. So Andrew, what did you take to this? I assume it's Menoth.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually looked at a ton of different factions before I settled on a list. I was thinking of playing Striker 1, some sort of hand cannon with disruption on it. I looked at playing Retribution. I even thought about playing Circle for a little bit, just for kicks and giggles. But at the end of the day, I'm always comfortable playing Menoth. It's what I love to play. I love it thematically. I know the rules inside and out. I kind of understand the Menoth gameplay, game plan. So I don't have to spend a bunch of time on War Room kind of looking up stats. Yeah, so I decided to go Menoth. That's right. So I ended up having a list led by Krios 3 of all Warcasters. So Krios 3 is a caster which I am fundamentally unfamiliar with. So he's within the Menoth stable, but I am really, really attracted to control casters, attrition casters, the Sevi 1, Sevi 2, Harbingers. Krios 3 has much more of a personal output, much more of a personal game. He wants to be in the middle of the board, not the edge of the board. He's willing to kill something himself, and he's way more robust than a caster like Harbinger or Sevi. So was pretty excited to try him. I've owned Krios 3 for, I think the model's sitting on my shelf and it hasn't moved in 10 years, something like that. Never played him in a tournament game, so I figured this was an opportunity to kind of be comfortable, be competitive. I know kind of what the game plan is, but still to try something new that I've never played before. So I was pretty excited about Krios 3.
Perfect. What was in the actual list? What was the breakdown?
Oh yeah, so I had a min unit of Choir, which I felt really tough. 4 points in Brawlmachine for a complete support unit. I really went back and forth on that one. But at the end of the day, I built my Krios 3 list with 3 jacks. So I have a Revenger, which is the Arc Node and Repulsor Shield. I have a Dervish, which is 2 light Power 13s attacks. And I have a Redeemer. All 3 of those jacks really need battle to have any chance to trade up into a heavy. So I felt like without the Choir, I was just too light with my jacks. So I had to bring the Choir. And then if you're playing Krios 3, which is a cavalry model who gives divine inspiration to Exemplar Vengers, I had to take Exemplar Vengers. So I maxed the unit because they have battle driven, which is +2 armor, +2 strength, and Pathfinder if those models get damaged or destroyed for the round. So you want a big unit of them if you can. So that was 20 points. So having 3 light jacks, a Choir, a min unit Choir, a full unit of Avengers. I didn't have much room for anything else, so I took a single point on a rack, and I took Gade, who is a 5-point solo for free in my requisition slot. He's terrible. His defensive stats are awful. So I was hoping he could maybe sit on a flag and maybe not die, score me some points.
You need at least one solo there for that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that was kind of my list in a nutshell.
Ian, what'd you take?
I took General Awesome because I wanted to prove Brian wrong. I have been playing Ostrom in Brawlmachine for the better part of a few months, to be perfectly frank, and I know how good he was coming into this, and I wanted to see how well he was going to perform in this event. And I am running Ostrom with a Basher, a Driller, a Blaster, a Gunner, Harlow, because Harlow is absolutely ridiculous in this format, a Steelhead Gunner, which helps out with my Artillery Corps, a unit of Forge Guard with Stonelord Guvel Godor, which is Stonelord GG in in my terms. It is a catch-all list. The only thing that I ended up finding out what it was weak into was any kind of super high defense, or any kind of super high defense with blast immunity, as well as a large amount of stealth. So when I discovered that, I had to change tactics, and that person I changed tactics against is in the chat right now.
Perfect.
And I should
Now, one
mention.
thing I want to get from you guys as
Ryan.
well. Oh, sorry. What are you saying?
I just want to say I didn't say what my list was weak against. Ian jogged my memory there. Everything. Turns out there's a lot of things this list is bad against.
Fair enough. So one of the things I want to get from you guys as well is, like, going into this, was there any pre-thoughts you had coming in, like, you know, doing this online Brawlmachine? Was there anything you were looking forward to, or anything you were kind of worried about? Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only played one game of Brawlmachine previously, so I had to sit down and actually reread the rules a couple times. And I know that I wasn't, you know, you can read a document or a rule set over and over and over and get kind of an intellectual idea of how it's going to play out, but until you sit down and get reps, you're always going to be surprised. So I knew I was going to be weak as far as the rules experience and knowing where my position needed to be, especially in these new scenarios. You know, and I wanted to play really competitively, even knowing I was trying out a new list and kind of some new strategies. And I would say that the really thing that came to mind for me is that Brian had actually, you made this tournament Alberta meta only. So you had to be an Albertan player. And so that gave me a lot of comfort, not being familiar with War Room, not being familiar with Brawlmachine, to still kind of come into an event, know that I was going to be playing friends or acquaintances, have a level of familiarity and comfort that would make that event a little bit easier for me. So I was definitely feeling pretty comfortable coming in. And then I was flipping through, just as an aside, I was flipping through some lists of that I could kind of design, kind of metagaming Brawlmachine in my head, excuse me. And I thought that, man, this has got to be filled with a bunch of units with powerful ranged weapons and a bunch of boostable hand cannons. So I was kind of trying to build a list and trying to have a game plan around those two concerns of, you know, being shot off the board and being controlled by a bunch of, you know, high rate of fire, high range, accurate weapons.
Yeah, definitely a controversial call on my side, but I want to make sure that this is something to keep the Alberta meta going. So there's a lot of other ones out there for other, you know, if you want to be playing against people in Poland or wherever, but this is to make sure this one kept going. But I guess what you were saying as well, I'm sure that's what solidified taking your choir then, is making sure you could be dealing with that shooting you expected to see.
Yeah, it's a fair statement. Having passages is pretty powerful, especially when you have it on 3 jacks. So yeah, I totally agree.
How about you, Ian? Any pre-thoughts, worries going into this?
Oh, I'm super comfortable on Wartable and Brawlmachine. I'm one of those players that I'd be like, I don't care what the format is. If you give me a competitive atmosphere, I am down to try and, I don't want to say game the system, but I want to make it.
Break it.
I want to definitely try and do well at it. So, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's going to be competitive." Like, let's do this.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to go through the rounds now, see how the two of these did. I was just the TO, so I didn't get to play. But round 1, Andrew, who'd you play and how'd it go?
So I played no one. And I think this round for me actually really summed up the difficulties you can have with playing remote games. So I was matched with a opponent, a great guy that I know personally here in Alberta, but someone I know who has a pretty busy life. I reached out to him initially, and we had kind of settled on an evening after work we'd be able to sit down and play, and I got no-showed. So the next morning he sent me a message and said he was really sorry, but he'd fallen asleep, you know, just obviously a long day. His kids were quite active, so no problem. So we rescheduled, and he wasn't able to make the rescheduled round either, unfortunately. And so the Friday, which is the last possible day we could do the tournament game, we had scheduled a third attempt at about 8 o'clock, and he sent me a message about 6 o'clock saying, again, personal life just got in the way. He couldn't attend the event. And, asked if we could reschedule for Saturday, which I would have been happy to do. But I think you wanted to get round 2 up by Saturday, Brian. So had to say no. So actually, I reached out to Brian and I said, hey, look, I'm couldn't connect with my opponent. I'm happy to take a default. And I was actually trying to be, I don't know, maybe martyr fall on my sword. I was offering to take the default loss just because we couldn't connect. But you end up giving me the default win, I presume, after talking to my opponent. And to be honest with you, given the amount of times I did try and connect with them, I think that's probably reasonable. But, I was a little disappointed not to get to play a game.
Yeah, one of the things I thought maybe I should put up there is like, even for those that don't have time or whatever, maybe you can just get together to have the conversation. Because I mean, part of this as well is just to keep that community together. And so even if you can't play the game, hey, chat for 10 minutes, see how they're doing. But hey, defaults, take the win.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come to tiebreakers, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, Andrew doing well. Round 1, big win. Ian, how about you?
I had a great game against a caster that I'm a little terrified of because I had some PTSD issues from playing him the last time I played against him, and that would be Damiano. I cannot remember who my first round opponent was, but I'm going to pull that up right now. He was somebody I hadn't ever played against before, and he was a reasonably new player. Do you have the pairings up by chance? Oh, I'm really sorry. I can't remember what his name was. I'm gonna find that right now. But he was playing Damiano, and what ended up happening? Actually, I have the whole battle report on my channel if you guys want to check out. It's on my YouTube channel. The
Brenton Wright is his name.
Yes, Brenton was a great opponent. Really, really skilled. He was very deliberate in his motions. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was one of those kinds of new players that can kind of that might surprise the ever living shit out of you by catching you with a really good play that you didn't see, or you were not giving him enough credit. He's the kind of player that you have to give credit to. He's very good. He ended up playing Damiano, and he held his feet for one turn too long, and he didn't respect the amount of all-encompassing threat that Ostrom can drop out. And what ended up happening is that he didn't feat, so I went in and destroyed Rocinante, all but one of his heavy cav, all of his steel heads, Nicholas Verende. I left him with 2 models, and one of them being his caster on my alpha. So, and on that turn, I think I scored 3 or 4, and that was the bottom of 2. So, yeah, it was a really, really gross display of power from Ostrom's alpha that ended up hitting him. The list pairing was really in my benefit because Harlow was able to really kill a lot of steelheads before they were able to do anything.
So do you sell that PTSD? Are you recovered now? I
am recovered now. I feel better now because the last time I played against Damiano, you probably remember, is our jank game where we weren't allowed asking each other questions about our rules, and it made me think, be like, oh no. And I kept second guessing myself about what he could do, and I didn't ask him what he was able to do. So I opened up the Warmachine University page on my second monitor, and it was like reading everything about him. So I was like, I gotta figure out what he does. So no, it was a really solid game. I hope that he enjoyed the rest of the tournament. I really enjoyed playing against him, and I hope I do play against him in the future. He will be an opponent that will be very quickly at the top tables if he plays consistently.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
All right, so round 2. Andrew, did you have an opponent this time?
Yeah, someone finally showed up. It actually beat me into the game, which was a little bit strange. I got to play Matt Garant, who I've always thought of as kind of a Signar specialist. I'm actually not sure if he plays any other factions. I don't think I've ever seen him play any. So I see his name, and I kind of know that, again, as I was alluding to in the intro, I'm going to see a bunch of probably POW 10 Electro Leaps and a bunch of POW 12 boosted hand cannon shots, which is, something I designed my list to fight, but also still a little bit scary. My Vengers, which are kind of the backbone of the list, are armor 18 and armor 20 once they're wounded, you can still take a Avenger off the table with a boosted hand cannon if you get a little bit lucky. So it's a little concerned, but went into the match against Haley 3 in Storm Division. He had a fire. This, to my best of my recollection, all my games are not streamed, and I did not take as good notes as I would have liked, but he did have a Firefly and a Centurion, and that kind of terrified me because he's got a Centurion, which means I can't charge him, which means I have to walk one of my 3 lights realistically into combat because my Avengers aren't going to do anything with their POW 10 Weapon Master swords walking in on 3 dice on a Centurion. So I have to walk a light, speed 5, 7 to 6 inches threat range, choir, and boost at I was really scared about that piece. I thought he could bully me off the board pretty effectively with it. He had some infantry. Now, this is a fun thing about playing Brawlmachine is I haven't seen Storm Division infantry on a table in quite some time, but he brought Stormblades. So that was really cool. I had to read them. I couldn't remember what they did. So Matt is a more practiced player than I am. I think he's been getting more reps than I have. Haley 3 is a attrition caster, so he has the ability to bring models back through one of the Haleys. He can use and expand the 2 other Haleys, past and future Haley, kind of at will and not in danger of Haley Prime. So he's got more resources on the board. He's got more attrition pieces. He's got way more rate of fire with those infantry models. He's got denial pieces where I can't charge into a heavy and realistically take it off. So I was pretty terrified in this match, to be honest. I knew right away I was going to have to go for the assassination. And assassination, as Brian and Ian know, is not something that comes naturally to me. I'm very likely in a 2-hour game to go to 1 hour and 55 minutes and have 3 models on the board compared to my opponent's 2.
That is the Andrew. That is what I expect against Andrew, unless he's playing against somebody who's not scared of doing an assassination run.
Yeah, I mean, if you see me in my game in a tournament's over at like an hour or 40 minutes, you just know someone shot Harvey off, top of 2, bottom of 3, something like that. So Krios 3 has this really nifty, I don't think it's much of a surprise as far as his assassination runs go, but he has Force Hammer, which means he can slam one of my models, one of my opponent's models, either hit them directly or slam a large base model over the model that I'm targeting, Haley Prime in this case, get an assassination with the Redeemer. The Redeemer is one of my light jacks. It's a power 12 inaccurate rocket, but it's got a rate of fire 3. So when an opponent gets knocked down with a slam, suddenly they're a rat of 1, hitting on a 4+ instead of a double 6s to hit something like Haley Prime. It's much more reasonable. It can slam in 3 boosted POW 14s into a caster, and something like Haley is just way too squishy. So what ended up happening is I ran at the board at him because that's, not being super familiar with my list, having some really aggressive pieces with long threat ranges. So what ended up happening is 13 inches. I ran at the board at him. The jacks are kind of in the 10 to 12 inch range. I kind of just weathered his initial storm, took a lot of losses, found myself frankly at the top of 3, already down on attrition pretty badly. Looked like I was going to lose on either a caster assassination or on scenario the following turn. But I managed to run Avenger, they run 16 inches, which is pretty legitimate, around the side of his flank, threw a target next to Haley Prime, slammed it over Haley Prime and got 3 rockets on her and kind of executed her. Talking to Matt after the game, he just didn't see it coming at all. So he knew I had Force Hammer, he knew I could Force Hammer his jacks, but he never considered me running one of my own models up next to him. Looked like slamming it over. I was going to lose on either.
Were you worried about his Force Hammer assassination? You could have both doing the same thing.
Yeah, 100%, which was really funny. No, because I planned for it. To be frank, he could only send it off the Haleys. He didn't have an arc node in the list, which was really, really helpful. So what I ended up doing was I threw Arcane Ward, which is one of Krios 3's spells, on his Vengers. It made a Venger wall in front of Krios 3, and then used the Choir to do shielding on all 3 of my jacks. So my jacks were immune to being Force Hammered. Krios 3 couldn't be seen to be targeted, and the Avengers couldn't be targeted. And that kind of made, I'd say, 95% of my list immune to that. So he didn't have an opportunity.
Interesting game. Nice.
So the Sword Knights in his list, this I was just watching the chat go by. Mike played against Matt in the last round, and the Sword Knights are actually, his list is a def skew to some effect. his Sword Knights, Matt's Sword Knights are Def 13, +2 for the Haley spell, +2 for the Morrowind Archon, and then +2 for defensive line. So it gets real high real fast. So I could see the attrition getting real weird.
And don't forget, again, Haley can bring them back, right? If you pick a couple off.
Yeah, Haley.
And they're higher.
Future, right?
That's right. I had enough. I mean, I've got the Redeemer who can throw out POW 8 blast damage boosted, and I was kind of initially considered picking a couple off, but frankly, their armor is good enough. You have to get lucky, and then he's just going to spend a few focus, 3 or 6 focus, and bring them back. So there was really no out for me on attrition at all in this list, and frankly, I think if I had a little bit more of a chance, I might have played the game worse. I went into this knowing what I had to do, even in a list that I wasn't familiar with. I think if it wasn't skewed so hard, so the fact I knew I couldn't last into turn 4 or 5, I might have held back from the assassination, probably would have just lost out on attrition.
Interesting. All right, Ian, how about your round 2? How'd that go?
I went against Michael McAvoy, playing Sorcerer 3 in Armored Company. That was I was worried. Mike McAvoy is a very good player. He's very skilled. He's I was not comfortable until this list because the Sorcerer feat could have really messed me up. He got first.
Can you remind
turn.
me what the Sorcerer feat does?
The Sorcerer Clouds. So you get D3 plus 3, I believe, or 5 plus D3, something like that. You get an obscene amount of clouds, and you put them out within her control area. And if you don't have immunity to cold, if you enter into the clouds, they do an auto point of damage. Now, I have my main anti-armor is isn't my jacks. They do a good amount of, they pummel, they bash pretty good, but my hammer dwarves do the best. They are the ones that hit hardest. However, they're not immune to cold, and they only get one big swing, and then they probably will die because they're only single point models. I ended up having to on turn 1, he was already so far forward that I just had to stay outside of his threat and then kind of position defensively. And if I did any damage, he's going to get vengeance because of the UA on the demo core. The demo core is just like, those hammers just hit so hard. Some of the highlights on it is when the main reason why I ended up catching that game is that he put all of his demo core around on the other side of the clouds, or he put all his clouds on the other side of a forest, but then he moved his demo core into the forest and gave me charges all over him. And I was able to get my hammer dwarves in there and just kill every single one. I think I got every single one. But to do it, I had to move my gun bunnies back. I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm on feet. I can back up and take a hit. So I back up out of his demo core. Both of my bunnies backing up end up taking free strikes. I'm like, whatever. They only POW 16. I'm arm 21. It's dice off 5. He crits with both of them onto both the bunnies and do like 16 damage each. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, and they take out the cortex. So I'm like, I can't shoot. I can't do powerful attack. There's nothing I can do with them. So I'm like, okay, so these are pretty much useless for this game forward. I charge in with the hammer dwarves. Not even without any issue. Every single hammer dwarf killed a demo on the charge. And then not only that, but when I did kill one, he didn't realize that they cleave with Lord GG. So I'm charging in, cleaving, doing 4 dice damage on a POW of 11, and then cleaving to the next one for another 3 dice on the next swing, killing another one. And they're hitting so hard that he can't Sajuan Bond out or the Bond of Brotherhood, whatever, the Sajuan Bond event, essentially, out the damage to the rest of it. So he's just like blowing these demo core up left, right, and center. And I just jammed in with my basher and my driller to keep my caster and my and the rest of my dwarves safe from recourse from Beast 09 and the siege weapon. The next turn, he kills both my siege weapons, or both my driller and my basher, and then I put Osram, I put Osram, Harlow, and a siege cannon into Sorsha and just blow her right out of just make a crater out of her. I was not playing around. I did not want to have Beast 09 and a siege jack running around making a mess of my dwarves on the next turn. So yeah, I ended up annihilating her on turn 3, I think. So it was a really bad play mistake by Mike. Basically, he didn't think about it, and he just walked forward into that forest, and I'm like, it's mine. I'm gonna hurt them so hard. So that was the rest of it.
I kind of feel like Brawlmachine's designed to try and like teach you these small interactions, so that if you do make one mistake, then that's why usually it's like a best of 2 or a best of 3. But you know, like in these best of 1, if you make a little mistake like that, it's kind of over.
So one of the other players, Kevin Keller, played. He's actually in chat right now. He was playing Bennett, and he was playing against Jordan Murphy, who was also playing Demo Core. And one of his Demo Core ended up getting onto Bennett and one hit his caster right off the table. Yeah. So
you know, it's an interesting point I want to jump on really quick there, though, Brian, because you mentioned that, you know, it's you make one mistake and then the game's over, which is true. But I mean, that's very true in a 75-point game too. And I'd much rather make a mistake putting a model into a forest and giving line of sight and lose a 45-minute game than thinking that they're, you know, an hour and 50 minutes into a match and you make that error, right? So it's one of the advantages of Brawlmachine. If you're trying to learn and improve your skill set, having that ability to we didn't re-rack, it was best of 1s, but still, you know, that was probably a 30-minute mistake for him, not an hour and a half, or, you know, pre-COVID, if you factor in drive time and setup, you know, a 3 or 4 hour mistake.
Oh, that's the worst. And just kind of touching on the tournament, is that the tournament style is that, yeah, you drive 2.5 hours in your first round, you make a mistake of putting somebody a millimeter or an inch into a forest, and you get absolutely wiped off the table, and you have 2 hours to sit there, be like, I could have slept in and showed up for second round instead. So yeah, no, Brawlmachine is super, super forgiving for that because it's so much faster played.
All right, so we're halfway through the event. You guys are both 2-0. Andrew, round 3. Who'd you play and how'd it go?
So really interesting. I played a gentleman I had not met before either, or at least I'm pretty sure I haven't met, Devin Rudd, who I think is one of your locals in Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a new one, yeah.
Yeah, new, exactly. I know most of the kind of established players, and so I saw his name, had a brief interaction with him on Facebook to schedule the game, and I was kind of on high alert. A new player, playing Signar again in Storm Division again, but playing with a bunch of So this is starting to feel like the Signar tournament, right? I should have asked my first round opponent if he would have played Signar if I played him, to see if I would have got 3 for 3 here. But he was playing Maddox.
Oh, nice.
Not Maddox. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's Maddox.
That's
Maddox.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, haven't seen that a lot. He had an Ironclad and a Stormclad in his list, which was also not something I was used to. I mean, he had the always present Firefly, which, you know, I can't fault anybody for. But he also had, I'm gonna pump through here really quickly. He had some more. I think he had Stormblades. I think that's correct. The one with the range 6 gun?
Yeah, that'd be them.
Yep.
All right. I haven't seen those guys again in absolute ages. And so I've got a player who I don't have any experience with, playing something that's a little out of left field. And so I was kind of ready to have a really hard, really competitive list, or game rather, with someone that I just wasn't familiar with. And then I started chatting with him pre-game, and I realized that, you know, like you mentioned, he's new. He said he had about 17 games under his belt, maybe a few more on Wartable as well. But I don't know about you, but 17 games in, I was terrible at this game. Still probably terrible. But no, like awful. I don't think I won a game for my first 50 matches. So like, you know, this sounds a little, maybe even a little dismissive, but like my shoulders kind of relaxed a little bit. And I kind of transitioned from I'm going to have this, you know, potentially cutthroat list. I don't know how this guy plays. If he's really strong, I'm going to have to, you know, play a really tight game, to kind of almost teaching mode, right? I want to make sure that I'm exploiting what I'm doing. I'm going over my units, maybe my strategies, making sure that he doesn't feel like I get him with a gotcha or a catch you all kind of moment. So it's a real change of pace for me. What I didn't realize is Devin only has 17 games in Warmachine, but he apparently was quite an accomplished Guild Ball player.
Yes.
And I learned pretty quick in this match that there are a lot of transferable skills between Guild Ball and Warmachine. So we played up, and again, I'm kind of with a newer player, I do try and make the attempt to not only explain what my models do and kind of stat blocks, but kind of the general strategy in the list. So, you know, Krios is going to have a lot of personal threat range. The Avengers are going to hit like trucks and go after your jacks. I'm going to try and slam you and go for a force hammer assassination. And then I kind of just run everything at him. I mean, to be fair, it's what the list does. He's playing a bunch of, you know, middle range guns. A lot of them are boostable. He's got a couple of heavies I have to kind of figure out how to control because, again, having 3 lights, all 3 of my lights, the power strength maxes out at 13. I can battle potentially and get up to 15, but if I'm engaging in fisticuffs with an ironclad, I'm going to lose every single time, right? So
that's going to sting real hard and potentially really do some damage to the arcing.
Yeah, like I'm running in on like armor 17, like 26 boxes. It's not going to go well for me. So
I was just thinking about that list. That's really actually quite an efficient list that Devin was running. Thinking about it, like the Storm Knight for Accumulator, Beth Maddox with all of the extra things. That list actually kind of jams in Brawlmachine. I dig that.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of redundancy in that list too, right? There's not a piece or 2 pieces you can kind of snipe out and dramatically, you know, make them less efficient in what they're doing. I guess if you kill Maddox, it does, but short of that.
Yeah.
So turn one, I just book it at him. Hey, look, my Avengers out-threat anything he's got. They've got a max 13-inch threat range. They can get up potentially up to, top of my head, power strength 19 with Divine Inspiration. So if I can put them into his Ironclad or his Stormclad, maybe 2 or 3 should be enough to take one of those down. I just kind of have to weather the hand cannons, the POW 10s, POW 12s, and just kind of deal with it. So I run forward, position really far forward, going, you know, someone that plays min-off, and most of my stuff is speed 5, run 10. Playing with Avengers, which is not a unit I'm super familiar with, but running 16 on the top of 1 feels really good. You take up a lot of space on the map.
It's so scary. It's so uncomfortable.
So he kind of just, you know, he kind of positions out. He comes forward, kind of just outside of my threat range. We have a smoke cloud in the middle of the table, which kind of allows him to advance without being in direct threat. But top of 2, when it goes over to me, I move forward with Krios. I feat to strip him of his upkeeps because he has resourceful. So once his upkeeps are out, he's keeping them up there for no cost. So I can't let him be that focus efficient, right? So I come up, I feed, I strip, I swap my my upkeeps around a little bit. I get my Revenger forward on the left flank and slam his Ironclad into his Stormclad, which felt really good. They don't go too far. It's about 2 inches back, so he's still in the battle. It's not like a 6-inch slam of a zone or something. But I figure that side, I'm going to just control the 2 jacks. I'm going to bring up the Avengers down the center, and I'm going to go for that slam assassination in the same way that I did against my second round opponent. However, I probably played it a little bit too cocky. And so he stands up, but I have Avenger or 2 that are kind of walk in engage range for his heavies still. So he takes those, takes some pot shots, and he advances forward. And it's kind of an inconsequential turn, and I feel a little bad having used my feet and not had any sort of dramatic swing. Comes up to my turn again, and I figure this is where I'm going to take him off the board, right? So I'm just going to do my maximum damage, go for attrition, put him in a place where he has to bring Maddox forward, and I'll take him out. Well, it goes sort of okay. So Avengers are not good at clearing an infantry unit without getting impact attacks. It's pretty straightforward. They each have 1 attack, maximum possible kills 5. I'm down to 3 at this point anyway, so I really need to get those impact attacks. And he hasn't really given me a good angle for those. And if I lose the Avengers, I have nothing to kill his heavy jacks anymore. Again, I just don't trust my power strength 13 lights to do it. So I kind of hold everything back. I can't commit my Avengers into his infantry without then losing them in the peace trade. But I need them to kind of thread in the middle of the board. I haven't done enough to his heavies. I do go to Force Slam again, but I only get the Ironclad. The Stormclad is fine. and my Redeemer unloads into it, but doesn't kill it. So I've got one really damaged Ironclad, one pretty much okay Stormclad, and now we're on the center of the table. And it's really scary. So I go over to him, having about 3 Vengers, all my Light Jacks still intact. Krios is pretty safe, but if he picks off Gade, who's my solo on the flag, I either have to score it with Krios and kind of keep him out of the zone and out of the game, more or less. And just for clarification here, we are playing orbits, so it's not like I can kind of just hunker down the center of the table and control all the zones.
Out of curiosity, Andrew,
yeah,
did you know that you get mount attacks if you don't charge?
I did, yes.
Okay, yeah, Mike was just bringing it up, and because Divine Inspiration POW 12s will kill infantry pretty well, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no, he's 100% on board with that one.
Okay.
The problem is, and I obviously didn't do a good enough job of explaining, he's kind of hanging out in the 10 to 13 inch range. So I'm not going to make an attack without a charge. And frankly, a power 15, 17 lance is overkill for that infantry, but I'm not going to get multiple attacks. I'm not going to be able to get impact and then go further into his lines because he's kind of already at the edge of my engagement. So long story short, I really underestimated how much damage he could do and the way that he would be able to apply the models on the table, thinking that he was kind of a newer player. And he took a lot of stuff. So he killed all my Vengers with his knights. He stood up the damaged Ironclad, walked it sideways, which I was not expecting, and actually killed one of my Light Jacks, my Venger, who I had moved forward to do the Force Hammer on the previous turn. That felt bad. He had Maddox come forward, take a shot, and be really aggressive in the center of the table. And he had his Stormclad move forward a full movement to kill the last Avenger. He actually cleared my Avengers out entirely. So if I can just paint a really quick picture of attrition, I've got 2 lights on the table. I've got Krios 3, and I've got Gade. That is it.
That is not a good feeling.
No, he's got 2 heavies. One's badly crippled, but still 2 heavies. He's got about half a unit left of his knights. And my one redeeming feature is he's got Maddox in the middle of the board camping 2, because she came out so aggressively. About 11 inches from Krios 3. I've never made a melee attack with Krios 3, but I mean, if he can't put Maddox down with 7 focus, that's kind of on me. So I charge forward, and I'm lucky to 2-shot her. So
nice.
If he hadn't put himself in that situation, with Maddox kind of flapping in the wind, I do think I probably lose that game on attrition, which I was not expecting. But I think at the end of the day, he could have taken a couple less attacks. Maybe instead of killing that last Avenger model, if he would have run his Ironclad forward to block the charge lane that Krios 3 had to Maddox, or put some more pieces between them instead of making charge attacks, he probably would win it. He's talking to him at the end of the game. I thought the really interesting thing for me is coming as a new player who wasn't familiar with Warmachine, but kind of had the measurements, the tactics, angles down, was he was unfamiliar with the peace trade. So for me, my number one concern was losing my Vengers, because I lose my Vengers, I lose the ability to kill his heavy jacks. I lose the heavy jacks, then I get bullied off the table. He didn't realize that those Vengers were the key piece for me, so there was a critical turn at the bottom of 2 where he could go for my Dervish, which is a light power strength 13 jack, or Vengers. He could kill one or the other, but he couldn't kill both. He chose to go for the Dervish, and I think that's actually what gave me the game, because it kept my Vengers in it for another turn. So just not him not being
like a ball. Normally, if you lose a piece, it just kind of comes back on, but that's not how it works for Warmachine.
Exactly. So I mean, even having the kind of the general awareness of what you're doing, Warmachine is specific enough that if you don't understand which pieces are critical on someone else's board, you're still going to be at a big disadvantage.
Well, hey, if skill and expertise don't win the day, luck and determination will. Come on.
I usually ride on luck. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I mean, that's pretty much the when we get to round 4, we'll explain that one out.
All right, Ian, what was your round 3? Who'd you play and how'd it go?
Oh, my round 3 is actually in chat right now, so he's going to judge me super hard on this. It's Michael Blard, also known as Michael Bessem. Fantastic player. I'm going to say it because he watches almost all of my streams, and he's one of the most prolific people that to shit talk me. Actually, he doesn't even shit talk me. He just is always present online and at anything that has to do with Warmachine in Alberta. So, and I appreciate him as an opponent. He got a big smiley face right now in chat for me. So, I am running my Ostrom. I'm running hot. It's round 3. Might I say that we have 2 really, really fantastic players in this event. One of them is Jordan Murphy. He is known as what is his nickname, Brian?
The Natural.
Yeah, he's naturally skilled at anything anything tabletop wargaming. I've played him in 40k events. I've played him in Warmachine events. He is very, very good player. And if somebody here doesn't know who Chris Dancox is, I would be very surprised. He is a international or national player across North America and wins big events like LVO, comes in with the quarterfinals and finals of Warmachine Weekend. Big player, like really fantastic player. Yeah, Mike Besson just casually erases them both in the first 2 rounds of this event. So Brian, as a tournament organizer, is slogging him through the trenches, making sure that he gets his scalps, and he wants his scalps. So he gets 2 scalps in the first 2 rounds, and then I end up matching up against him, and we play fairly regularly on Wartable. He's playing Fianna 2 with a unit of Grotesque Raiders and a unit of Archers with UA, and he has the Grotesque Assassin solo, Golab, and a Nephilim Spear Bolt Thrower. I don't like this matchup because the more he talks about it, the more I don't like it. And he's stealth, so that's a big issue because Harlow can't go out and shoot him. My gun bunnies can't go out and shoot him. And he has, what's the name of Iron? It's not Iron Flesh. Impervious Flesh. It's something that gives them +2 armor on a unit or model and makes it so they can't be blast damaged. So I have to deal with that with my with the one thing that can deal with stealth low armor models, which is my mortar. Iron Flesh, yeah. So I can't do anything to his stealth models other than try and charge in and hurt him. Thank you very much, Beth, for liking the stream. So because of that, the the amount of damage that I can apply to his forces is next to nothing, and he gets to alpha me. I don't like being alphaed. It is not my thing to do. I like hitting first and hitting really, really, really hard. So, I look at the list, I look at my options, and I realize I can get 2 gun bunnies, Harlow, Ostrom, and if I'm really, really creative, I can get my artillery onto his caster. She's camping 2. I'm going for the janky assassination. My skill at dice in this game, be like, I'm going to casually roll 9s and 10s to hit all day long. That's all I need to do. Just roll 9s and 10s. So I roll 9s and 10s the entire time. I missed 2 shots out of all of them and ruin Fianna on the very last shot, which, so she's def 15. I'm needing 9s to hit, 8s and 9s to hit on most of my stuff. So she dodges, goes beside Golab, and I have my last shot, which is my mortar, which has fire for effect up on it, and I need 11 to kill her because she has 2 boxes left. But he's knocked down because he toughed from the last turn, so I have to move Lord GG over, Reveille the gunner up. Then I have to put on Desperate Pace for my Steelhead gunner to move while under feet to get range and threat to be able to get this shot out. So I managed to get the hit on Golub, I managed to get the blast damage on the caster and ruin her, and I think I scored 2 in the process, but I don't think it really mattered all that much. It was a caster kill, and it was very, very dice intensive. It shouldn't have happened. Mike didn't deserve that level of dice being thrown at him.
It was a fun one to watch, though, because it was basically you saying, "Oh, I'm screwed. Oh, I just killed your caster."
Yeah, it was. Oh no. Oh, okay, this worked out. Yeah, I literally killed. I think I might have had 1 extra damage, but yeah, or it was right to the box on the very last activation. It was a very low percentage assassination. I wasn't comfortable doing it, but it ended up happening.
Sometimes you gotta go for those.
Exactly. So, and at the very end, I'm like, okay, 3-0. Let's see what happens next week.
So for those of you doing math at home, that means that both of our contestants here are 3-0, and what do you know? They're facing each other in the final top table. So we've been trading back and forth here, but I guess it's time for you guys to share to kind of walk us through turn in 2 how this last game went.
You got first turn there, Andrew, so you get to start.
All right, so there's a couple things I want to mention before we get going here. First of all is I did listen to Brian's podcast about Ostrom after we finished playing. But even flipping through Ostrom and kind of guessing what your list would be, as we kind of, me and Ian both kind of said which our casters were about 4 or 5 days before we played. Man, how is Iris 1 not banned in this format?
Right?
I don't understand. I was doing the math.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
seriously.
Okay.
Could you Iris 1 with Awesome is super gross. Be like, I'm gonna snipe and be like, and then end the game. Be like, because you aren't going to touch Iris, and I'm just going to bounce all over the place.
You've got like an 85% chance, something ridiculous like that, to hit Krios from anywhere on the map. There's no way that I can engage with her and still play the game at 35 points.
Because she's range 10 or range 12?
I believe she's range 12 base.
Yeah, she's 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
up to 16 with snipe.
Yeah.
And she moves 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's rat 9, so I can get up to defense 16 if I throw Arcane Ward on myself. But I'm just saying, like, the idea that you can pull the trigger any turn you want, and what do you have? Like, again, an 80-something% chance that you can deny me focus for 2 straight turns. I can't really hide. It's just crazy. Yeah. So anyway, just want to say that I was real scared of that, and I was really happy when Ian didn't have her in the list. And then I looked at the scenarios because I kind of glanced through the Brawlmachine scenarios, but until you play a new scenario, it's really hard to see how it unfolds. And we were playing Singularity, and if anyone who's listening to this is not familiar with that scenario, it is everything just shoved into the middle.
It's amazing. I love that one. It's like let's fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was not what I expected. I've never played anything like it before, and I had to kind of reorient my entire game plan around it because no longer am I going to be able to kind of do these large flanking maneuvers or kind of throw. I've got 5 cab models, and I've got a singular large zone in the middle that I'm going to have to try and control if I want to have any realistic chance of staying in scenario game here.
I'm not trapped.
So that was my first 2 thoughts.
You're trapped in here with me.
One of the 2, and then look, I'm not great at math, but I can do basic math, and so I see that he's got Hammer Dwarfs, and I've played Hammer Dwarfs before with Harbinger, so I'm going, okay. They move 4. They charge 3. They've got 2-inch reach. I'm like, that's pretty, that's not super far. That's fine. I read of the new model who I'd never heard of before, Lord GG. And I'm like, okay, desperate pace, so +2. And then I look at Ostrom's feet, +3. And I'm going, my cav models, which the entire basis of my list is focused around, is about getting an alpha with those Divine Inspiration lances, killing something heavy. These Hammer Dwarfs out-threat me by 1 inch.
Oh.
Just
so straight out.
So just as a segue from this, I've been playing a video game that's called Deep Rock Galactic, and it literally has dwarves that are mining through space, and I've been playing dwarves on Warmachine, so this has literally been like the dwarf channel for like the last month, and I'm just like thinking about these dwarves just hoofing it all the way across. Never throw a dwarf, and just hammering on these horses and stuff like that, running faster than them. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's the mental cinematic of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking at how these lists compare, and I'm going, okay. I mean, I hit a Hammer Dwarf, it's going to die. Hammer Dwarf hits a Cav model, that Cav model is going to die. So you out-threat me, our damage is consistent, but you've got a way more volume of attacks, way higher volume of attacks. You've got more pieces to score. You've got more pieces to contest. You can be wider in the field than I can. You have a suite of really good, powerful, boostable guns when I have almost no guns. I have 3 shots a turn at inaccurate, rat 1. So I went into this game saying, okay, I either need a massive attrition swing, so I need to outmaneuver those dwarfs and smash probably 2 or 3 of your jacks in an alpha, or I need to get an assassination. Because I'm just not winning attrition. Oh, and that new solo, what'd you call him, Lord GG?
Lord GG, Stone Lord GG.
Somehow, if he's not giving desperate pace, he's got recursion, so I can't even lob the occasional Redeemer Rocket and hope to pick a couple off.
So good.
Oh, he's so good, and I love
What do you think about the matchup?
I didn't like the fact that you were going to be able to your feet was going to be able to dictate the play of this game very, very quickly, because I need my focus every single turn, and with you being able to strip out fire for effect, that made a big difference for me. I didn't like those horses at all because they hit super hard, so I was like, I need to engage them as fast as I can. And I was probably going to be looking for an assassination play, because I was going to keep my dwarves a little further back, because you're going to be going after them. And Elias was the perfect tool to be able to start killing dwarves real fast, because I don't get tough, because he has sniper. I am low defense. I'm high armor, but that doesn't care because sniper again. So
we gotta talk. We gotta talk about this for a minute, though, Ian, because I think this is a real yin and yang kind of thing. I've got Elias Gade, who, as you'd mentioned, has 2 attacks at range 10. They're magical crossbows, but they've got sniper. So if he hits you with Mat 7, you're dead. Really good against dwarves. You've got a solo that has Swift Hunter. Mm-hmm. 4 power 12, range 12 shots?
Yep, 4 power 12, range 16 in that list shots.
Yeah, with sniper, of course. Yeah. And so Gade is really good at going after those hammer dwarfs, but if he is anywhere close, he is going to get power 12 to death. He's only defense 12, armor 16, 5 boxes. And he's my only scoring piece on flags, with the exception of Krios 3. So I want to play Gade forward and pick off those dwarfs, but I know if I come anywhere near you, you're going to just blow them away with those power 12. So for me, that was a big part of this game, was how can I minimize Harlow's threat and maximize gauges. And just so you know, I would not take him again. In hindsight, having def 12, armor 16 is not enough to stay alive in the game of Brawlmachine.
It's likewise from Harlow's side, because even though I have a 16-inch threat and I can see through everything to be able to shoot your guy, you are moving and shooting and you have turn advantage. So if I move forward and kill Gade, I lose Harlow through the Vengers, because they're going to charge and absolutely ruin him. So yeah, it's kind of a or I'm gonna get picked off by the heavy, or the light, your stupid Redeemer thing.
Yeah, for sure. The Redeemer. Yeah, everything starts with an R in my list. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Or almost everything. So another thing that's really important to understand about this matchup, and you could obviously go watch it on your channel if you're so inclined.
I appreciate that pop there.
Not only is every zone shoved into the middle of this map, there's a giant cloud effect in the middle of the map. So there's not an obstruction, but that is really a defining feature, is you have to run in. Whoever runs into that cloud is going to be invisible for their opponents, but have the center of the board. And so when I got lucky enough to win first turn, I had a decision, right? Do I hang back, kind of play tentatively with you, or do I just throw everything at your face and kind of see what happens? And I, obviously, the way our game turned out, I decided that playing kind of footsie back and forth with a bunch of boostable guns on the other side is not the correct way to play this matchup. And so I took everything. The horses ran their full 16 straight down the middle of the board. Krios moved his full speed and then repoed 3 straight forward. And all my jacks ran 10 inches straight forward. So I just said, hey, here's my army. You're going to get to hit me at least once. I'm not going to let you hit me twice. And then we'll see what happens. And I figured maybe I could control enough of the board, being kind of, frankly, at the center line, that I could maybe sneak something on scenario if you played a little too tentatively or a little too cautiously.
Pardon me, sorry?
So turn 1, what happened?
For my side, I ended up being like, I need to not get hit by those Vengers. You know what? I'm going to beat turn 1. And like, it was a bit of a thought process, but I'm like, I'm going to feet. I'm going to run in there and I'm going to make it so those Vengers can't charge me. So I ran my Basher and my Driller up there to jam up the horses. I did a little bit. I think I killed 2 or 3 of the Vengers with the Gunner.
Yeah, you got 2 of them. You got 2 of them. Yeah. Which is the worst, how dare you. It was one thing to engage my horses, that was fine, but to kill half of them and then engage the remaining 3 so I didn't have a chance for any charges on the following turn was really frustrating. I should have spread out a little bit better, but I just, I did not see the run play, I'll be completely honest.
It's one thing to be able to be like, oh, Like, I can stay out of the feat and then charge in and get the alpha. It's another thing to be like, I don't want to get alpha even by 3 of those things because they're POW 16 or 18 on the charge with divine whatever the hell it is. No thanks. You can take your POW 10s or whatever POW 12s or POW 14s are going to get up to, Weapon Masters, and not get that extra dice. I'm fine with that. So
and just to explain my thought process is, I thought the key for me to win this game was for Ian to use his feat in a way that didn't generate attacks, especially with his hammer doors. So once he blows that feat on turn 1, even though he ran and even though he took away my charges, if he kept feat in back pocket for turn 2, he would have the potential to bully me slowly backwards while constantly taking pot shots. And as he showed me on turn 1, he can kill about 2 Vengers a turn, which means I get 1 turn action with these guys otherwise. So the upside is, by pivoting to the left of the table for this play, I did move away from the hammer door. So your hammer doors didn't get any charges at all with the feat turn. You just had to run.
yeah, I just basically ran him forward just to get him into a better position to bully on the other side of the forest. I'm like, I thread 11 inches without feet. I'm okay. Like, I only need like 3 of them to kill a heavy on a good charge. So
yeah, and not that I have any heavies, right?
Yeah, not that you have any heavies, but I mean anything that they touch, if there's at least 3, they'll probably annihilate it, and that's including Lord GG. So
yeah, 100%. And you know, it's kind of funny the way that you describe that, Ian, but you're right. That's what the Vengers do. So they start at, if they can't charge and they can't use their lances, they start at power strength 10. They battle driven to power strength 12, and then I threw ignite on them on turn number 2, which means that they are power strength 14 weapon masters, which is super swingy. Not getting the charge obviously is kind of disappointing, but I was really hoping they'd do some damage. But I completely spaced that Ostrom's second half of his feat is armor. I was so concerned about the movement because movement dictates so much of this game. I honestly just completely blanked that you get a +3 armor bonus across the board. And so I was counting on doing some significant damage, but even worse, I decided that the top of 2 was the turn I was going to go for assassination. So long story short, and this took a lot longer in person than it does in the telling, I decided that I was going to charge Krios into Ian's driller, then use the distance generated by the charge to force hammer one of your mortar crew over into Ostrom, knock Ostrom down, and put 3 Redeemer rockets into him.
Yeah, and Ostrom was 4 inches away from the crew.
3 inches.
3 inches?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 inches.
Yeah. So exactly. So when Force Hammer hits, presuming it hit, fingers crossed on that, of course. If I roll a 1 or a 2, the crewman wouldn't have hit Ostrom. 3, 4, 5, 6 would hit. I get the knockdown. And so I will spare you guys the drama. I went through the process.
Do the drama.
Yeah. You can hear me swear on screen if you're watching. I go through. I get the charge. I measure it out. Probably takes me 15 minutes to make sure that all the measurements line up correctly. I force the hammer. I hit and I roll a 1. So I spent 5 focus when you count my boost to kill a mortar crewman, which was not good at all. But in hindsight, was actually not bad, because I definitely, if I wanted to knock him down, would have moved my Redeemer forward and committed to making attacks that I think had a very low probability, factoring that at +3 armor, to actually kill Ostrom. So those 3 attacks at power strength 14 boosted coming in. So I'm looking at, a total of 25. And what does Ostrom sit at under feet?
Armor 20.
Yeah. So you had, I think I had 1 or 2 focus, if I remember correctly, which means, I could have killed him, but it would have been pretty unlikely, I think.
Yeah, he had 1
so
focus
long
left.
story short, I don't do much damage to the driller. I don't do any damage to Ostrom. Don't even knock him down. I feated, so I've stripped your upkeeps off, which are really good. But now I've got Krios base to base with the driller in the center of the board, within the 1 inch of engagement, certainly. And I've got to figure out what the heck I'm going to do to keep him safe. Do I make additional attacks on the driller? I've got 3 focus. I could try and, I've got, 3 focus. I can try and chew that through. But with under feet again, I just figure, even at power strength 14, I'm not going to do enough damage to realistically hurt the driller. So I decide to take a really risky gambit, and I take my repo move directly away from the driller and give him a free strike. So the driller's coming in to power strength 19, if I'm correct, Ian?
18.
18, thank you. So straight damage die, boosted if you hit me. I do have Arcane Ward up, so I go to defense 16, but I just figured it was way better to give you a free strike and to get 3 inches of distance and try and back out of that engagement than it was to sit there and base to base with the driller and 3 inches closer to the rest of your army and kind of just not tank one additional power 18. I was hoping to not take any of them, but I was really lucky you missed. If I remember correctly, you were looking for a 10 on 3 dice.
I was looking for an 8.
An 8, that's right.
I would have been an 8. So yeah, and I missed. Oh no, it was an 8 on 2 dice.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I missed the 8, which was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a positioning game. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and so my third Venger charges in and destroys one of your gun bunnies.
Oh yeah,
I think it was the blaster. Yeah, left it on like 1 or 2 boxes.
Yeah, one or two. I think it was 2.
Engages the second one, so that guy's my MVP for the game.
Yeah.
And my other 2 Vengers take a swing at the driller and your other heavy that are base-to-base contact. And somehow, even though I am Divine Inspiration, needing anything but 1s to hit, one of the Vengers rolls 1/1/1, which was really like, you know, would it killed it? No. But was it morally deflating? Yes.
Yeah.
And so otherwise,
the damage boxes that you did on the driller left him with movement out, but cortex and right arm still up, which was my drill
we're not
side.
Quite there, Ian.
Oh,
there's one more. Yeah. But that is foreshadowing there for sure. And then so everything else just kind of runs up or attacks or engages to try and clear zone and keep Krios 3 safe. Because the great thing about Force Hammer is, I can try this again. And Krios has enough personal output that now that you can't threaten feed on me, I'm thinking maybe I can run the table with a cavalry caster who has a really, really good personal threat. I just need to survive. So I'm sitting on 3 focus, not engaged by anything, have a bunch of models between my models and your models, and I kind of turned it over to you.
Yup. And then it was my turn, and I'm kind of looking at this and be like, well, let's see if I can do what Andrew just tried to do, but to him instead. He has done a fair amount of damage, and my original plan is that there was a Venger that was sitting there engaging my stuff that I needed dead. And so I put out my focus, I'm looking at the different angles, I'm like, okay, I should be able to get this kill. It's not a super high percentage, but Def 16 is a giant pain in the ass to deal with. I don't like it at all. So, and unfortunately for Andrew, the foreshadowing is that I do end up getting some hits. So what I started off by doing is I use my basher. I try to go headbutt a Venger into oblivion, and I miss a boosted power attack into that Venger, which probably would have killed it because I was going to boost the damage too. With that happening, I have to figure out how to get instead of just walking simply into Krios with the driller, I had to walk all the way around a light, sucking 2 free strikes to get into Krios. So,
better remember, these are now power strength 14 weapon master free strikes.
Yeah, which I do, and I don't have feet up anymore, so I'm arm 19 against weapon weapon master free strikes. So, go ahead, Andrew. How much damage did you do on the first one?
I felt real good about this coming in, to be honest.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't think you could actually make it. Ian has to use a microscope at the highest setting to figure a way to just reach the 1 inch.
Literally, would have been steppers. Would have been steppers if
I do think if there was a table, you wouldn't have been able to find it, but that's fair. Took 15 times in 10 minutes, but you got there.
Yep.
So I get the 2 free strikes, and I don't know the number of points, but I demolished this thing. So as Ian alluded to,
I think you did like 16 damage.
That are still there. Yeah, the only 2 things that are still standing there are his cortex and his right driller, which was real sad. Yep.
Yep.
And I think it was 1 or 2 more points would have taken the cortex out entirely.
Yeah. So I end up getting the driller on him, and I boost the first attack with him, and
You're looking for a 10.
I'm looking for a 10, and
which is not unreasonable for you to miss. I mean, it could happen.
No, it's 10.5 on average. I mean, it's 50-50, so I do end up getting the first hit, and then I'm just like right into him for 2 more. I don't do a lot of damage, but I leave you on 5 boxes after the driller's done? 8 boxes
Yeah.
after the driller's done.
So this is a weird thing for me playing Minoth, right? I'm so used to my 14-14 Warcasters. I kind of saw the driller start to connect, and I just figured it was over. But coming into Krios's armor 18 with 3 focus, yeah, I ended up actually surviving all 3 attacks, boosted attacks, and I'm sitting on 0 focus in about 8 boxes.
Yeah, so here comes the Hammer Dwarves that are threading 11 inches. They cruise in their sweet 9 inches and get with all over Krios.
So let me just paint a little bit of a story, though, Ian.
Yes, please do.
I believe, I could be wrong, I believe these were your last activations.
Yes, they were.
Ostrom's gone, all your jacks have gone, you just have the Hammer Dwarfs. You've got 3 Hammer Dwarfs that can actually get into range of Krios. And I'm going to be honest, I was a bit salty about this because not being an experienced Wartable player, I haven't quite got the perspective down yet. So obviously, at all times when you're playing on Wartable, it'll tell you exactly how far your model is from every other model. But, 11 inches isn't literally 11 inches. And for those of us that are not familiar with playing with Wartable and kind of used to that, I had definitely counted Krios 3 safe. I assumed I was probably like 14 to 15 inches away from these Hammer Dwarfs. I was already pulling up my my Warjacks, what I thought he was going to be attacking and trying to swing on attrition. So Ian's like, yeah, I'm going to start making attacks. I'm like, oh, what's your target? I'm thinking he's going to go into the Avengers, or he might go into my Warjack, as I mentioned. And he's like, well, what do you think? Krios. And I'm going, oh, but it's really hard to argue with a computer program that tells you you're 11 inches away. Yeah. So, yeah, so I mean, it's all good natured. There's nothing I could have done to change that, but it definitely caught me by surprise. Luckily for me, Krios naturally with Arcane Ward Up goes to defense 16, and Hammer Dwarfs are good at hitting, but they're not that good at hitting. So, believe me, if I'm correct, you were looking for 9s with the regular grunts, right?
I was looking for 9s and I missed both of the grunts, but Lord GG does what Lord GG things does.
Which is hit 8s, apparently.
Yeah, I hit 8s. So I hit with the first one and rolled dice off 5, and I rolled 10 damage on the first swing. So that put him right in the dirt. I was like, I kind of like looked back and like, was that a crit? Oh, it doesn't matter. I did enough damage anyways. So yeah, it was a gross display. Lord GG like won my 2 games basically back to back. One for being able to reveille up the mortar in my 3rd game, and absolutely basically put a helmet on his shoulder from Krios. So,
and to be fair, the only reason you have the range to even reach Krios is because of Desperate Pace from him, right?
100%. So that's exactly it.
Not only does he the work himself, but he actually enables the play, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a gross display of Lord GG's ability. And if it would have been an attrition game, I probably would have lost the attrition game. I'm pretty confident in that
point,
one.
Yeah, I think you do. Yeah.
Because
I just thought, for clarification for those listening, this Lord GG is the new unit attachment for the Hammer Dwarves, just in case there's any confusion.
Stone Lord Guvel Godor is the...
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw him in Ian's list, I wanted to send you a message, Brian, and say, hey, this guy doesn't have a picture in War Room. Does he count? But
yeah. All right, so that's awesome. A great game there, battling to the end. And so Ian takes it. So congratulations, Ian.
I get my face on the Edmonton... My face is on the Edmonton Warhammer or the Brawlmachine Facebook page, and everybody has to see my face every time they log into the group. And I'm gonna and the joke is that they're gonna be like, "Oh no, I have to see his face for the next month." Be like, "No, you have to see my face for the next year." Let's see if I can get my face on there 2 or 3 times.
So one of the things I want to get from you guys, though, is that we were talking about your pre-thoughts coming into this, the things you were looking forward to, the things you were worried about. So now that you did this over a month, you got 4 games in basically. What were your kind of afterthoughts about this whole event and format? So Andrew, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I've got a few thoughts. Cut me off whenever I'm going a little long-winded here. But I mean, the first thing for me, I'll be honest with you, Brian, is I really miss the tournament atmosphere. It's great to effectively have what is a league here, a game a week over a period of time, tracking the results. But it definitely felt a little disconnected to me, especially compared to, an in-person event where you're having a chance to engage, watch other games, have discussions about other tournaments. It was really weird for me to kind of come home after, an 8 o'clock I come home at 8 o'clock after a work shift, put my kid to bed, sit down and, play it almost like a video game for 20 minutes. So it was a lot of fun, but it didn't really hit that tournament craving that I've been having, which was a little disappointing. I wasn't sure if it would or not, but I think it's just something we're going to have to wait until we have an opportunity to do games in person before we're really going to get a chance to get that back. Unless you convince people to book off 12 hours to play Wartable games over a Saturday.
I'm down. I'm so down.
I mean, I'll play, absolutely. I'll put the list there. As far as like Wartable, holy crap, did I love Wartable. Again, I've played one game in the summer to kind of get the basics, but getting a chance and having especially Matt Grant sit down and explain to me some of the shortcuts and some of the tricks and tips. The big one for me was deviations. So having a jack that fires the last three templates that almost always miss is real pain, especially in person. And there's a button, I had no idea, that automatically puts the deviate template out and then automatically calculates your blast.
Well,
that was nice. Awesome. Yeah, that was really cool. So Wartable was amazing. Loved Wartable, but that perspective, I'm gonna have to practice or something, because I would say that 10 inches to me on Wartable probably looks pretty close to like 15, 14, just in my head. Brawlmachine was a lot of fun. It's weird playing a format which is, at least for me, not having followed a lot of the discourse around it, completely unsolved. I didn't know where to start for any of my lists. I kind of just, and it's funny, playing 2 Signar lists and a Mercenaries, I still have no idea what's good in Brawlmachine or not, but really like the format, love the short turnaround on games. I will say I probably prefer playing 75 points still after playing those 4 games.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But, it was still a fun alternative format. I definitely would play a Brawlmachine tournament or a casual league again, not a problem. But it definitely seems to skew away from, at least in my experience, playing 2 Signar players and a Merc player control. Would have loved to maybe play Harvey, or at least to feel better with it. But I think it's such a high lethal environment, or high lethality environment, and it's so hard to justify defensive pieces.
Trying to keep her protected, trying to keep Harvey protected.
I can't imagine keeping a large 14-14 safe in this game.
Yeah.
I just can't. So with 1 unit of initiates, ugh. So yeah, that was kind of my general gist. I had lots of fun. I loved it. It was a little weird. It was a little disconnected as far as tournaments go. I'm not 100% familiar with the program. It sucks to lose to Ian. It doesn't happen very often. But I'll have to come to terms with it.
Perfect. How about yourself, Ian?
I really enjoy playing different formats. I love playing different spreads and different types of games. It's one of the I'm a firm believer. I am a tournament player through and through, and I think that anytime that you're taking out of your normal element, it makes you a stronger player to learn how to compartmentalize the different ways of playing the game, and it gives you different thought processes. And due to that, I really do enjoy Brawlmachine, especially for its format, because, I mean, you saw at some of my streams, they've been 3.5, 4 hours long, and people still watch them. They enjoy them still. But when I can finish a game in an hour and a half or an hour 45 on Wartable with Brawlmachine, it makes it there's more socializing that you can do, and I really enjoy that. And I do miss tournaments, Andrew. I miss it so much. I wish that we could all get together and start throwing things at each other. There's gonna be a lot of hugs and a lot of handshakes when we can all get back together at Ogre's Den down in Calgary, or at the at wherever we end up playing in Edmonton. So I enjoyed this event. I love month-long events, and it's really been fun for me to play against all the people that I used to play against in person. So keep this up. Also, I played against somebody that was new as well, and so I enjoy playing against new people as well. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Wartable. I think in the last few months I've gotten about 3 dozen Wartable games in, or more than that, even that. So yeah, I love Wartable as well. It's gonna be weird playing in person with models again. So for me.
Well, just to quickly piggyback really quickly on that point around new players, Ian. Holy smokes, Brawlmachine is an amazing format for that.
Oh, it's so good.
I wish Brawlmachine was here when I was starting out, and trying to figure out how to build into a 75-point list and having steps to do that. Getting to play someone who is new and learning the game as well again, that, yeah, really cool. Love that. And it must make the game feel a lot more accessible if you're a new player.
Oh, 100% agree. It is so compartmentalized that you can just be like, I want to play this unit with this caster because I own these guys, and I just throw it together and be like, okay, let's go have a game. Let's go do a best of 2. So there's no gotchas, and we can learn everything about our own models as well as theirs. And it can be played against seasoned players, because seasoned players are like, let's bang out another game. You're gonna learn the hard way, except you're gonna learn the hard way way quicker, and it's really accelerated pace. So.
Perfect. Well, that's our coverage then of the January event, the Brawlmachine. For those who are wondering, the one coming up here in February is a 35-point caster swap. So it's basically like a twist on Who's the Boss, where you make a list, and instead of like turning a wheel to see what random caster you get, you just give your caster to your opponent. So just a silly one. Who knows? We might have Ian and Andrew back to talk on that one as well.
Let's do it, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but with this one coming to an end, I'd like to thank you, Andrew, for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you as always.
And for all you guys listening, hopefully, we can get that mark out of the basement, get one of these podcasts going before we cover that one for the swap machine or whatever we're going to call it. But
I like
otherwise,
swap
you guys
machine. That's a good
thanks
one.
for watching. If you want to catch more of our stuff, well, Ian, where they can find your things?
They can find me on all my socials, which is youtube.com/thecommunitykiller, facebook.com/thecommunitykiller, Instagram is at the community killers, Twitter at the community ki2. Basically everything is, if you just Google the community killer, you will find me. So, but the 3 biggest ones are Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Twitch.tv/thecommunitykiller. So if you guys are watching on anything or on any of those, thank you very much. And please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and like the videos and come throw me a message. You guys are more than welcome, and I will support everyone I will respond to everybody that does it.
All right. Thanks you to everyone listening, and otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Perfect. We're done.
Nice. I am still on stream, and I am going to just do my wrap-up real quick. I will be back in a second. I'm going to be ending the stream, guys. I hope you guys have a great night. I will be talking to you guys later. Thank you, Beth, for the like. Thank you, Mike, for the like. Thank you, Not So Super Fraz, for the follow on Twitch. Thank you, Dave Rowland, for the like. I appreciate everybody and everybody that's been watching and bumping in and out of this. If you guys look up top, you guys will see that there are some new meters during this. I haven't had any new subscribers yet. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and you guys will hit that subscribe button. And up here I have the donation button. If you guys or the donation tab, if you guys enjoy this and you guys want to see this keep rolling, please do a donation, even if it's just a cup of coffee. So I appreciate everybody that's watched this, and I hope you guys all have a great evening.